but you cannot feel the heat. You cannot recount any of your lovers' names. They cannot forget yours. They cannot unlearn it. You have memorized living on your lips. You can say goodbye whilst eating. You do not find yourself needing easily, but all your lovers easily need you. You are planning your next meal whilst your lover is still mourning over you. Why does your fire not burn you? And how come you cannot feel the heat?
I clean myself because of I don't like to use dangerous things like drugs, because I will end up being in bad mood.
Kukho amaxhosa axhosekileyo ayawathanda amasiko awo, ayazidla ngobuxhosa wabo. Ke mna ke lo thetha apha ngumangxongo usophitsho uyemele uvela bambhezele yethetha. So esinake emaxhoseni sithi iqanda zikajika eqandeni qhama ngengela xesha lithi erha.
My name is Jessica Fassfeld. I'm currently busy doing my PhD with Prof. Liesl Eberson. So she started an organization that's on Kloof campus called the Study for the Center of Resilience. And the main focus of the organization is to look at resilience, specifically in education, specifically with teachers.
My name is Sian Palmer, and I'm a drama and movement therapist and have developed a form of movement meditation called expressive movement. So expressive movement is a body-based practice that really looks to working with community and with dance. So it's really about returning to movement, which is a natural form of expression.
I'm Catherine Matebula, and I am a registered counsellor. I provide the likes of basic counselling as a means of alleviating any kind of extensive symptoms that may lead anyone to either having a pathology develop or being dysfunctional on a day-to-day basis.
I'm Valma de Beer, and I'm a drama therapist, but I'm also a drama teacher. So for many, many years I've been a drama teacher. So lately I have moved more into drama therapy, and I'm also a lecturer at Wits in drama therapy and belong to various organizations that work with children. So children are really my passion, and just looking at the youth of today and the serious and difficult things that they have to face in the world, and how can we accommodate that? And it's really been one of my big questions that I'm trying to find answers for. I think we all know that we've got some of the highest statistics in rape, violence, criminality, but then we have to look at things like apartheid, colonialism. We've got generations and generations of trauma in this country, and it's accumulated, you know, and it just gets cycled from one generation into the next. So it just makes sense that we have a really special case in South Africa. And one of the things that I've learned about trauma is that if it's a natural disaster, people can not easily, but they can sort of make peace with it. But when it's a man-made disaster, and that all our disasters in South Africa is man-made legislation. We caused it to each other, you know.
So it becomes a person
and
against
that is
person.
much more difficult to understand and overcome as a trauma. So I really think it's something that needs to be addressed, and very quickly in South Africa.
So the concept of psychosocial well-being Traditionally, it is a cyclical process where an individual's capacity to be self-reliant in stressful situations or challenging situations would be heightened. Also, their capacity to have harmonious relationships. So, establish relationships that are quite consistent, have good values, and they have a moral stance that's going to either inhibit negativity from taking over and improve their well-being on a daily basis. It also speaks to a combination of the psychological well-being of a human being, so the emotional state, the mental cognizance, self-awareness, emotional intelligence, societal responsibilities, as well as the combination of being a part of a community and co-joining them so that a person is a productive part of the community or the world.
Look at my hand right now. It's just shade, right? When I move it around, what's happening there? There's a little bit of light, right? As I move it around, the light it's diffusing there, right? You see? Every space like this, there are different forms of light. Sometimes you just have to move your subject that side.
If I'm going to bring it to the basic day-to-day functionality of the African child, okay, it's basically being able to communicate. Communicate not just about what happened today, but also about how you feel about what happened. It's also about having a child be aware that their stance is also important. Their understanding of how the world is functioning is also important, and having the support to also eliminate those biases or misconceptualizations or maybe some confusions. For example, if I were to bring it to that African child at home, there are some parents who will say, I really want my child to be happy and I want them to grow to be healthy and be responsible, but they don't necessarily set that child up to have insight and judgment. How that would happen is that a parent would take over the process of what do you do, what do you wear, I put up the rules in the house, you go with those people or not with these people, and there would never be sort of like a discussion or a rationale behind why these behaviors are not necessarily advised to actually take place or why we prefer this particular type of lifestyle.
Generally in therapy, the idea is that you can't really work in the beginning phases of trauma with children because the fear of re-traumatizing is too big.
Yeah.
Or the chances of that is too big.
Okay.
So, but with drama therapy and with emergency pedagogy, you can work with the body. You can make them feel safe in the body. You can play games that has got nothing to do with the trauma, and re-establish the community, the fun, the playfulness with other children. And so it's a phenomenal modality to really start working with trauma right at the start of it, before it really becomes a serious disorder like post-traumatic stress disorders, or go even further into, alcoholism or any other addictions and stuff like that.
Okay, and 3, 2, 1, go.
I think that expressive movement and moving and dancing together really fosters a sense of being seen and being valued and being validated. So when we're moving in an expressive movement class, there will be a connection at some point between you and I, and we'll meet each other's eyes and we'll share a dance together, and I will feel seen by you and you will feel seen by me. And so there's an exchange that's happened, and there's a co-creation that is between us. And that immediately creates a sense of possibility, a sense of healthy relating, a sense of well-being, because you are feeling seen, you are feeling validated, you are offering something that's being accepted and that's also being added to. So there's a toing and froing and a giving and receiving that happens in the dance that's really equal and really powerful. And one of the biggest points of feedback that I get from people who come regularly to movement classes is that they really feel a sense of community, that they really feel a sense of family and a sense of self-worth.
Resilience, when it was first conceptualized, it was conceptualized as an innate trait that somebody had. So you either were a resilient person or you weren't a resilient person. But resilience, as I understand it, is now moving away from being an innate trait to something that is an environmentally stimulated trait. So building social ecologies that support resilience. So instead of just saying resilience is an innate trait that you either have or you don't, resilience is actually an ecological trait. It's the interaction between the individual and the environment that determines whether or not somebody is resilient.
People have different ways of responding to stressful situations, and sometimes there's an argument in psychology that speaks about nurture and nature. There's some people who will either collapse because then they never had that kind of essence of help as part of their process, and then there's some people who will find, like what you're saying, confidence and resilience. But it does come with experience, and we cannot necessarily complete a person on the basis of you never had this from grade 1 or you never had this from age 2 or 5. However, in the case that somebody is to struggle with asserting themselves in a particular way where their psychosocial well-being is heightened or it's much more functional on a daily basis, they would need either to see a life coach in the case that they can afford to see one, or there is one that provides free services, a registered counselor, to see if there are any maybe functionalities that they can help them with. And in the case that it has grown into a life adjustment issue and there are concerns about the possibility of this person maybe having anxiety that is quite crippling, then they would either need to see a counseling psychologist or clinical psychologist.
Well, I think in drama therapy, all over the world, we've already established the fact that it's quite successful. And so there's different modalities of drama therapy, and most of them has worked with children in trauma, and most of them had phenomenal results. All right. So in South Africa, we were sort of working with different, or sort of in an eclectic way. And usually in therapy as well, we work with what the children brings and what the need is, or what our intuitive feeling is, or what their need is. So we might work with more with role theory, or more with plays, or more with singing, but generally, or story making, fairy tales. But there's always a little bit of a fun, spontaneous, playful background to the therapy, which children really enjoy.
So I think that firstly, having something that is unusual arriving is intriguing, and I think that it's really helpful to create a space and a place that is outside of the everyday. So I think that the arts really establishes that. We open up a play space. We engage the imagination. We engage creative exploration. And I think that that's a really important way in for young people. Yeah. And the fact that they are allowed to express their anger, to express their kind of individual thoughts and opinions through the art form in a way that it is safe, so they don't have to necessarily be saying it, but they can be moving it, really allows for a stronger sense of self. So I think it's really good for identity development to really harness one's own expression and recognize that it's allowed. I found, particularly working with young adolescent boys, that actually they need to access their own strength and their own power and their own anger, and they need a healthy creative form through which they can channel that and they can connect with it. And I found that particularly the music making, rhythm making and movement is really helpful in that, so that they can really get into that kind of expression, and it's not it's not diminished, it's not belittled, it's not suppressed. It's actually just seen as a part of the creative